morning, everybody. This is Susie from the Morgan Library. Normally you'd find me at the reference desk, but this morning I'm not at the reference desk. I'm in my garden at home. What I'm doing today is sharing with you some tips from my relatively few years working in the garden here in Alabama. I've only lived here since 2012, and so since then I've kind of developed a green thumb and decided to start gardening, and I've learned a lot in those 8 years, and I wanted to share some of those tips with you today, since some of you may be stuck at home and may have some extra time to spend outdoors. So I hope you enjoy this video, and please comment, please share, please ask any questions. I'm not an expert, but I am a reference librarian, so I can always look up your question if I don't know the answer. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks. So here's tip number 1. This is a freebie. The earlier, the better. When you are outside in your garden, especially in the spring and the summer, try to be outdoors 6 a.m., 7 a.m. I know that's really, really early, but it is still cool outside. You can water your plants, get them set up for the day, especially if you're going to hit the 90s or higher through the day. You want to make sure that the plants that need the water the most, like tomatoes and things like that, are watered. Also gives you a chance to check your plants for any kind of critters, or if they look wilty or anything like that, and try to get on top of any kind of problems before they arise. So tip number 1, always do it early, and the earlier the better. Tip number 2, read, and research. Of course, being a reference librarian, I'm going to encourage people to read, but it is really important when you're dealing with plants and the garden. Of course, you can find a community online, join a master gardeners group or a local gardening group, just talk with your neighbors if they have a nice garden. So that's considered research too. That's, we're not just talking about reading books here. However, there are books and databases and websites that are dedicated to gardening, whatever gardening type you want to do, whether that's vegetable gardening or landscape gardening. And then also that'll be specific to your region. So if you're watching this and listening to this and you're not from Alabama, you may have a colder or a warmer climate, a wetter climate. You're going to be in a different region. You might even be in a different country. So you want to do research for what works well in your specific area according to what kind of garden you want to do. I'll attach some links here with some suggestions specifically for Alabama. But of course, look at what would work best for your region. Tip number 3, don't forget the pollinators. So if you are vegetable gardening, it's very, very important to draw pollinators to your plants. Otherwise, you're going to have beautiful plants with beautiful blooms and no fruit. And by fruit, I mean vegetables. That's what you call a vegetable when it grows on a plant, is fruit. So you want to make sure that you're drawing pollinators. That's bees and that's butterflies. Other insects can also be pollinators. Bees are the most important though, and I'm sure you're aware we're having issues in this country, in this world, with bees right now, with bee populations. There's lots of different theories on that. Main theory now is pesticides are doing their job. They're killing the pests, which for some people are bees. However, bees are very, very important to agriculture and to humanity because we rely on them to pollinate rather, a lot of our plants. So you want to make sure that you grow flowers and flowering items that will draw these insects. I'm going to attach a list of bee-friendly plants that work specifically well for Alabama. I personally, you'll see here some pictures of some marigolds that I have planted. Marigolds are great for bees. They also help keep away nematodes and other pests. Zinnias are also great. Bees like red and bees like yellow. Milkweed works really, really well. And there's lots of other beautiful mixes that you can buy at the store that you can just throw down if you have a dirt area and you don't have anything growing. Just throw down a bee mix and you'll attract butterflies and pollinators, and you will see much more productivity from your garden. Okay, So this is tip 4 and tip 5. I'm going to combine the two. I'm just going to show you guys a whole lot of stuff that I have in my rather large and lovely gardening shed. I'm kind of spoiled by this shed. So gardening can get expensive if you're buying nice pots, if you're buying plants, if you're buying really expensive, nice soil. So you want to try to cut corners whenever you can, because part of gardening is to save money by growing your own food, at least in my opinion, when I vegetable garden. So I try to make the most of whatever I can find. So I'm just going to flip the screen here and show you some things that I tend to use in my garden. Okay, so my biggest discovery in the garden was that I cannot grow in the ground. So I need to grow in containers, and my go-to container is just this 5-gallon bucket. You can see it comes from a hardware store that shall remain nameless, but you can get them anywhere. The other big box stores have them, and you can see in the bottom there, I think, yeah, there's some holes drilled in. So a definite must-have in my garden is this electric drill. It has a charging station as well, and I can put lots of holes in these buckets and they work wonderfully well. But basically that's, you know, for your full-grown plant once you put it outside. But if you're starting from seed, and I do suggest that, you can start in any number of containers. Here you see I have a little yogurt container. This is something that mushrooms came in that I have drilled holes in the bottom. I have a assortment of, I would call them Mardi Gras cups. I did live in Louisiana for a good long time, and you just sort of acquire these things. But Alabama Not to Be Left Out is also in this mix. I plan on using that this year. I'm going to drill some holes in it. If you don't have one of these hard plastic cups, you can also just use your basic, well, I say solo cup, but it doesn't have to be a solo cup. Drill some holes in the bottom, and you can start your seeds in there. I have another yogurt container here. That one has seen some years, so the plastic does get brittle. That's something you do want to pay attention to. But if you're starting seeds and you've got your seeds in a cup with holes and you're watering it, these holes are going to drain, and you don't want to necessarily want that liquid to go anywhere. So you want to try to keep to-go containers. So this is like a tray from, I think, probably Chinese. This is a little sushi tray lid, something that had croissants. And these are really good for staking plants early on when they're small. These are reusable chopsticks, but you can use the throwaway kind that you can get from Chinese and Japanese restaurants. So any materials like this you can use. Of course, my favorite that makes every nurse friend of mine laugh is this, which is the little thing they give you in the hospital to do your business in. But it's a great shape. Drill holes, plant in it. Basically, if it's a solid container, drill holes and plant in it. I adore these clear Rubbermaid bins. They're really great for holding seedlings like this, but also when it's cold, you can take this and flip it upside down and put it over your plants outside. It makes like a makeshift greenhouse. You can also start seeds that way, and it creates just a little bit of warmth and keeps them safe. In addition to that, I want to show you my 3 must-haves while in the garden. This doesn't look like much, but trust me, you're gonna thank me for this. Always carry a pair of scissors, a Sharpie, and a towel. If you're marking plants, plant labels, this will come super in handy. This, you never know when you're gonna have to cut something. That could be a plant, that could be a string, that could be a bag of soil. You could also carry a knife, a pocket knife, if you're so inclined, but if you're not so graceful like me, you probably wanna stay away from the knives and sticks to the scissors. And a towel, because Douglas Adams was not wrong. Always bring a towel, because you will find 101 million uses for it. Okay, so now we're at tips 6 and 7, and I'm gonna flip the screen and sort of walk through and show you what I'm talking about, and hope it's helpful. Tip 6 is, whenever possible, always start from seed. So here you see I have, now these are a year old. So I always label my year when I get some seeds, just so I know how long they stay viable. Start from seed whenever possible. These are just some seeds I plan on starting today. These are pretty quick growers and shouldn't be a problem starting them this late in the season. Here you see, you saw these in the previous episode or previous segment, are seeds that I've started. These are squash and chives. All of this mess here, we're gonna get to that later. That's another tip, but just try to not pay attention to that. So we're gonna walk outside. The other thing about starting from seed is you wanna pay attention to your region versus where the seed is coming from, where the seed originated. So this is a wonderful example. This really nice fat stalked tomato plant. Got some blooms there, don't have any fruit yet. Nice and hairy, it means it's gonna do really well. This plant is called the alfalfa tomato. There's a little sign. And that is from Iraq originally. But the Middle East is great for getting plants for Alabama because you have a lot of heat, sometimes some dry weather, and so they tend to do really well. Another region of the world that compares really well to Alabama is Thailand. So here we have a Thai hot pepper that I started from seed, and it's looking really good. Again, pay no attention to this. I'll explain this later. And then also, just gonna go on a little walk here. Also, these are Thai round eggplants, and they're all doing really, really well. This one's my favorite. It's the biggest. Yeah, so basically when you start from seed, you want to pay attention to the origin of the seed, where it's coming from. Of course, if it's an Alabama native plant, go with that. But if you can't find Alabama natives, go with hot, sometimes wet climates. Doesn't have to be wet though, because you know how it is in Alabama. Sometimes it's not wet. So Thailand, the Middle East, Alabama natives, your Clemson spineless okra is from right down the road. So it does really well. And you also want to think about what your family wants and what your family likes. So starting seeds, if you don't like squash, but your kids love squash, go ahead and grow some squash. You're gonna like it. You're gonna appreciate it, and they will appreciate it. I can't stand cilantro. I'm one of those people. My husband loves it, so I grow it every year. Think about what you want, what your family wants, what will work well in your region, and go from there. Tip 8 is pay attention to pests. If you choose to use pesticides in your garden, that is fine. That is completely your choice. If you do not, Mother Nature is going to take her due. The bugs are going to come out, squirrels are going to come out, possibly cats and dogs. It just depends on what you have in your neighborhood. So you want to do some research, decide what works best for you and your family if you choose to use pesticides. If you do not choose to use pesticides, one thing I do want to warn you about here is the tobacco hornworm. Because ladies and gentlemen, your yard will turn into Alice in Wonderland. This is the caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland with his pipe. It is a big, juicy, green worm that will eat your tomato plant in a day. So during high season, even before high season, go ahead and check your plants every day, even if you're not watering every day, and look for some bare limbs. If you see the bare limbs, keep looking. You're going to find a hornworm. When you find it, you can choose to do with it what you wish. If you happen to keep chickens, I hear love them as a treat, but I just quickly end their misery on my pavement. And that is, up to you how you handle that, but they will destroy a plant. I've also seen them eat a hot pepper plant. Didn't know that was possible, but they nearly killed that plant. One of the tips that I have for dealing with not necessarily insects, but more animals, and specifically squirrels, which I have an issue with, is putting down chili pepper flakes. And I'm going to show you a short video on that right now. So earlier I mentioned this business right here on my soon-to-be seedlings. What this is just basically chili pepper flakes, and I buy them in bulk. It's like a 5-pound bag. It's a ridiculous amount of chili pepper flakes. If you touch with your bare hands, do not touch your eyes. But this works amazingly well at keeping squirrels away, because squirrels will come up and want to dig in your dirt. They're going to try to bury acorns and whatnot, but just a nice sprinkling of chili pepper flakes on your soil, they'll get that in their little noses and they will not have anything to do with your plants after that. Okay, so the last thing I want to do with you guys today is take you on a quick tour of my garden, and I'm just going to babble on about everything that I'm showing you, and I really hope you're not bored, because I've had a great time making this video and I hope you've enjoyed it too. Start out with my tomato plants. These are Sun Gold tomatoes, and they are one of my favorite variety. As you can see, I have got some baby tomatoes that have already decided to join us. These are a very small orange variety, and they're very sweet but savory at the same time. Of course, here's some marigolds with no flowers right now that will help to draw the bees. These are the alcufas we talked about earlier. I'm very excited about these. They seem to be doing really, really well. A couple bush beans growing. Obviously this one started a bit sooner than this one. That's about 2 weeks of growth difference. So that's stands out quite a bit. Over here, because I am a cat lady, I grow catnip. This stuff is great. Grow it if you have cats. You can clip it and dry it, and your kitties will love you forever for it. This business right here is mostly just a bee mix that I have thrown down to try and grow some wildflowers to help draw the bees. I do have a plant here that is lime basil, an herb, and we're gonna try that for the first time this year. These are my shiso plants. If you don't know what shiso is, I will attach a link. It's amazing stuff. Really versatile herb, very popular in Japan and Korea. But it's available here in the US at some Asian markets, and it's really good stuff. More marigolds. Here are my Thai hot peppers. Remember I said growing Thai varieties work really well here. And then I have these sweet peppers. For whatever reason, I cannot grow bell peppers to save my life, but I can grow sort of, they look like hot peppers, the longer shaped peppers, but these are going to be sweets. We have some sweet potatoes, and these are being grown in grow bags. I absolutely adore these things. This is the second year I've tried to grow these. These particular slips are not doing so hot. This one's doing okay. But that happens in the garden. Sometimes you have wins, sometimes you have loses. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it and it has been helpful to you. If you have questions or comments or contrary beliefs that you want to discuss, that's fine. Just comment on this video. And hopefully I will be posting more content and showing you the fruits of my labor at a later date. Thank you guys.